Thank you very much. I'd like to play the piano for you now.
Welcome back to the Queer Circle, where queer healers step up to the mic to share their stories and what they would tell their younger self. Today's guest is Ave Amina Long, a Black queer woman. Ave holds a degree in dance and child development. She developed and created an art-based after-school program focusing on social-emotional development through a creative lens, and served as an art teacher for a preschool developed for queer families and children of color. Currently, Ave is the owner, cinematographer, and photographer of Keep It Diasporic. When she's not photographing Black joy and travel, she's working at a Black and queer-owned organic juice bar, Super Juiced, in Old Oakland, which helps expand her growing interest in food justice and body nourishment. Welcome to the Queer Circle, Ave.
I was born in Berkeley and raised in Oakland, but my mom had a scheduled C-section, so November 3rd, everything was fine, and the birth was fine, but the hospital where I was born at Alta Bates, my uncle, my mom's brother-in-law, actually worked there, and came to visit me, and my first name was actually Amina. That's what my mom was going to name me at the time. But when my uncle came to visit, he suggested Ave, which was because he always loved that name. And my mom actually really liked that name, and so she stuck it with Amina. So I actually have two first names, Ave Amina. And my mom struggled with addiction, so actually at 8 weeks old, my uncle became my legal guardian with my mom's sister, and they are both my mom and dad. I always had an understanding of my sexuality, or some sort of awareness of it, or not sure I had the words for it, but I remember being very attracted to all types of kids and people as early as preschool. But I just remember specifically in 6th grade, I was in an after-school dance program, and the first day I went into the girls' locker room to change to get ready for the class, and I saw a person who I thought was a boy because they had cornrows in their hair and had baggy outfits, like a baggy shirt, baggy pants. And I was kind of taken back because I was am I in the right room? And so I just casually mentioned that, this is the girls' room. And the person turned around and was had a big smile, and she was well, I am the girl. And I got pretty flustered about that because I was this person's really cute. And it actually turned out that they were in the same dance program, so I got to spend a lot of time with them, which was really fun. And after that, I ended up leaving the school in 7th grade, so I didn't really get to see them again, and started going to a Catholic school, which was very not about the queerness or gay or trying to support any of that at school and even in high school. But as I got older and graduated high school and I moved back to Oakland, California, is where I really started to open up about my identity. And I happened to have two siblings who are like identify as gay and lesbians, and I have so many cousins who are gay and queer. So coming out or like telling people that I was queer was very, I guess, easy in a way. And of course, I had lots of support. And so it's kind of I've just been like exploring like ever since. And Oakland is such a nice, safe space to like do that with. So yeah, that's kind of what I've been up to. So my dad has been a constant mentor in my life. Obviously, from like day one, there was just like this divine connection between us. I've always like felt so comfortable to talk to him about anything that has happened to me that can be like kind of hard to talk to parents about. And he's just like he is a real compassionate, kind, and forgiving person. So he's kind of instilled that as a lifestyle. So it's really nice to like have to grown up with that and still like discovering that as an adult. And he like really emphasis on self-love a lot. Also my grandmother, she was amazing. She and I actually had our birthdays 2 days apart. So we would often like celebrate our birthdays together and have a good time. But she was really like a strong woman, and her attitude was very like, don't mess with me attitude, and protecting her grandkids. Like all her grandkids had keys to the house, and she had hella grandkids. So it was very much an open door policy. And she taught me a lot about like absolutely like self-worth and respect. And she taught me how to sew, and she taught me how to cook. So she was a real big influence in my strength today. So I had a really fantastic childhood growing up with my legal guardians, my uncle and my aunt, who are my mom and dad. And my biological mom like went through a whole like process of breaking her addiction and becoming clean, and actually went to school and got her master's degree, and remarried and moved to Miami. And she actually married a white man. And so when I was 11, I actually, not by choice, was kind of forced to move to Miami to actually live with my bio mom and her husband, which was already like a big, huge like step in, I would call like my sadness, because I was leaving my dad. My entire family is in Oakland, and all my friends. So it wasn't until like I got there that I learned that my mom's husband is an abuser, is a physical and emotional abuser to not just my mom, but me as well. And so it was really challenging to live there and have no family to talk about my abuse. And this was right before like everybody had cell phones, so I didn't really have like a phone to call family without like some sort of privacy. So I actually really internalized it. But the physical abuse became more intense as I made my way through high school. Um, and I went to high school in Miami, and I went to a Catholic high school in Miami that was predominantly uh, white Cubans or European Cubans. And I was the only one of 5 Black kids in my entire graduating class. And there's no Black teachers at all at my school, or any along the diasporic. Nobody was represented that looked like me or acted like me. So it was a very isolating at home, and it's very isolating at school. And a lot of times I'd had bruises, and had to go to school with bruises, and nobody really asked what happened because I don't think people really cared. And I think that again, being 17, 16, I didn't really have the rhetoric or the knowledge to identify that that school was extremely anti-Black and problematic. But it became more aware when I actually had to go to school with a Black eye, as a result of my stepdad, harming me. And so I tried to talk to a teacher about it, and I tried to talk to the dean of students about it, and they didn't have any solution or wanted to get involved, and their recommendation was to call the police at the time, and that just scared me. So I didn't do that. And so, I just had to carry on and just live in a really toxic environment. And, live with my bio mom, who already made mistakes, as in having to give me up because she struggled with addiction, and now I'm back in her life, and she's supposed to be responsible, but is still participating in allowing this abuse. That she knew what was going on, and she was there and didn't stop it. And sometimes she'd also abuse me physically and emotionally. So those experiences are, it's very non-linear to healing. So that has happened almost 15 years ago, and I'm still just catching moments where I'm just this is the reason why I respond to things, because of my past. And some of those responses are identifying those responses are just speaking up when eternally I don't feel good about a situation. Or when I was teaching, just making sure to establish a safe foundation with my students, so I could be able to talk to you about the great and the good, and they could talk to me about the bad and the hard too, just knowing that I'm a teacher who isn't going to judge them. And not all students need that, but a student or someone might need that. So it's really important to me that I was showing up for that when I was teaching in school. And for myself, I'm still carrying tons of anxiety and trauma, and they definitely can affect my relationship positively, and sometimes not so positively. And But the older I get, the more I'm realizing or like connecting those feelings and addressing them instead of like repressing them and holding them in. So as a response to my like teenagehood, I was dealing and dealt with depression probably for a while, and again didn't know and didn't get it clinically diagnosed, but yeah, I dealt in dealing with my depression, and in my late 20s, I think my body was responding from stress, and struggled with like an autoimmune disease, and it like kind of brought me darker down and it started to impact my sex life. And so which was also like pretty important to me too. So like losing that kind of put me in a real in a dark place, and I'm just now starting to like feel lighter about it and remembering things that made me happy. But I kind of got knocked down again because about 2 years ago, I lost one of my good friends, one of my best friends, in a really terrible accident. So the grief was really impactful because I've never lost a peer before, or somebody who I like was in love with, and that was like an entire different grieving process. I've lost elders, like I've lost my grandparents, and those things you kind of mentally are prepared for, and I'm definitely a believer of life and a cycle of it and going on forth. But losing somebody who was about 34 years old and unexpectedly, and somebody so dear, was just unbearable. So it put me in another dark space too. So I've been crawling out of that too in over 2 years, but yeah. I started to talk more with my biological mother, and just having more compassion for her growth, and just by talking to her, my mom is in her 60s, and she experienced hella trauma growing up as a young Black woman in East Oakland. And she had the thing is, I didn't know her stories because I didn't care to ask, because I was so angry and like not trying to build with her. But becoming a woman and being in my 30s and like experience like the fucking pressures of being a Black woman out here, of course I want to like ask her more questions of like, what was she doing when she was in her 30s and her 20s, and just stepping out of my anger and listening to her. It was, I guess, in a way easier for me to practice forgiveness with her. So practicing forgiveness is so important, I think, for me to like live and be okay. And also practicing forgiveness allows me to like actually grow grow out or grow with or away from my trauma and address them instead of like just constantly being angry at my mom. And I'm also practicing being gentle with myself when I do see like mistakes that I make with with friends, with families, with my own self actually, and just being constant, just like, girl, like you went through shit for like 7, 8 years, and it's going to take however much time for you to heal from that. And it's not going to happen overnight, and it's not going to take 3, 5 years, and it may be my entire life. But just like practicing being gentle with myself, and also knowing when I'm like experience discomfort and not allowing it and not holding on to it, um, and expressing when I feel discomfort. And it's also really important for me to maintain my art practices and be dabbling in creative projects, having something tangible to do with my hands, crafting. Those things really are important for my happiness and to keep my happiness. I find the importance of documenting Black experiences and Black community through photography. I think that sometimes a lot of our success and our journeys get mixed up in media and somebody's impression of what they think Black experience is. So I thought a way for me to really preserve that and preserve our stories is not only through like picture taking and documenting, but also like engaging with my subjects and the people who I'm photographing, and listening to their like journey and our collective journey. And I do this to hopefully inspire like Black people literally everywhere to like explore their own like community and ancestral like journey like creatively, because I'm such an art person that I think that like there is a thing of like art social justice and art activism and art like collective healing. And for me it looks like traveling to parts of the world where Black people are, which Black people are literally everywhere, and asking them, what's their life like? What was your parents' life like? What makes your like own fabric of life, you know? And like listening to them and just being like, yeah, I experienced that too. And just like identifying the like common connections so that like we can go forth and like have a collective healing experience in our lifetimes. And hopefully like my documentation and like putting that out there, like anybody could have access to that like generations to come. I would tell myself that my feelings are hella valid, and that this is like not okay, but you have like the strength to come out of this and really create something righteous with your experience. I tell her that I love her so much, and like constantly tell her that I love her. And that there are people who love her. And I would tell her that her voice has extreme power and her thoughts have extreme power, and to continually persevere through that hard time, because that is like what gives you your strength to be who you're going to become.
Thank you, Ave, for sharing your journey with us. And thank you, listener, for joining us today. If you'd like to learn more about Ave's work, you can check out her on Instagram at keep_it_diasporic. You can find all this information and more on our website, queercirclepodcast.com. Music from today's episode was provided by Purple Fluorite. You can find Purple Fluorite's other works anywhere streaming is available: Spotify, iTunes, and beyond.